So the World Cup started a few days ago. Right now, somewhere, your cousin is screaming at the referee. Someone just lost a bet. Someone just broke a television. And somewhere else, a president is smiling because his country won something far more valuable. You see, every 4 years, billions of people think they are watching a tournament. They are not. They are watching the biggest reputation battle on earth. A battle where people spend billions of dollars, build entire cities, reshape global headlines, and sometimes they hide things they don't want the world to see. Sounds dramatic? Let me give you a number. The World Cup happening right now could generate more than $40 billion in economic activity. $40 billion for a football tournament. So here is the question. If governments are willing to spend that kind of money, what exactly are they buying? Because the trophy was never the most valuable thing on the field, and it never was. There is a second game being played inside every World Cup tournament. Most fans never notice it, politicians do. And once you see it, you will never watch football the same way again. Now, there is a word for what they are playing for. Soft power. Before you switch off, because that sounds like a textbook word, let me explain this to you in a very simple way. Hard power is when a country forces you to do something with money, with sanctions, with an army. Soft power is when a country makes you want to do something just because you like them. You see, a soldier at the border is hard power. A stadium full of happy fans waving your flag is soft power. The same goal, completely different tools. And the World Cup? It's one of the biggest soft power tools on the planet. You see, there is a second game running underneath the one you are watching, and it's been running for almost 100 years. Let me show you how this old trick is. Now, fast forward to 1978, and Argentina pulls the exact same move, just with more blood underneath it. The government there is a military junta. At that exact same time, they are making thousands of people disappear. Same year, Argentina hosts the World Cup and wins it. Now, for a few weeks, the world saw confetti, not the other thing. Now, I want you to sit with that for a moment. If a tournament can make the whole world look the other way just for a month, what does that make it? A party or a tool? And it's not just dictators who play this game. Brazil hosted in 2014, trying to show the world it had arrived as an economic power. The country of the future, finally ready. Didn't go perfectly. There were protests in the streets over money spent on stadiums instead of hospitals. But the intention was the same. Use the tournament to tell a story about who you are now. Now, I want you to keep that question, because the deeper we go, the more it starts answering itself. And the first place it gets answered is money. Big money. South Africa 2010, first World Cup ever on African soil. They spent over $4 billion. And it actually paid off on paper. At least, it added about 0.5% to the country's GDP. Created over 100,000 construction jobs, plus hundreds of thousands more around it. Now, if that sounds big, wait for this. 2026, the one happening right now in the US, Mexico and Canada, is even bigger. FIFA and the World Trade Organization say it could add up to $41 billion to the global economy. 6.5 million people attending. The US alone expects $17 billion and 185,000 jobs from it. $41 billion for a football tournament. Next time someone tells you sport has nothing to do with money or politics, just remember that number. But here is the twist. Not everyone agrees these numbers are even real. You see, some economists think governments inflate them to justify spending. So, if the bet doesn't always pay off, why do leaders keep making it? Now, to answer that, we need to look at the country that bet the most on this game. Qatar 2022. Qatar is tiny, population-wise, smaller than Lagos. but it is sitting on some of the richest gas reserves on the planet. The problem is that gas is going to finish one day, or the world simply stop needing it. So what's left when the money dries up? Influence. That's what's left if you build it early. So Qatar spent big, stadiums that look like spaceships. A major empire, Al Jazeera, even bought a stake in PSG. And all of these building one thing: attention. You see, for a while it worked. The opening ceremony was stunning. Everyone was talking about Qatar. But then, the other stories started catching up. Migrant worker deaths during construction, restrictions on LGBTQ rights, questions on how Qatar even won the hosting bid in the first place. Western media basically called it the most controversial World Cup ever. You see, researchers even have a name for what happened. They called it soft disempowerment. Qatar bought a spotlight worth billions of dollars, but it just couldn't choose what that spotlight landed on. So, lesson 1, a spotlight doesn't choose what it shows you. Point it at your stadium, it might land on your prison too. And that brings us to the country hosting right now. Because if Qatar, with all that planning, still got burned by its own spotlight, what happens to a country that maybe didn't even plan for it at all? So you would think the US has this figured out. Bigger stadiums, most money, most experience. Easy win, right? You see, some analysts actually disagree hard. One piece argues 2026 could be an on goal for America's image, depending on ticket prices, security, and on how the immigration debate plays out. The other analysts call 2026 the most politically loaded World Cup ever, landing right in the middle of US-China tension and a fight over what the West even stands for anymore. So the richest team on the field might still throw the worst party. Now, here is how that happens. Soft power isn't about how much you spend on the show. It's about the story people tell afterwards. Matches the story you wanted. And right now, there is a real gap between putting on a spectacle and winning hearts. So, even if the most powerful country on earth can fumble this, who actually wins the soft power game this time around? You see, funny enough, while everyone is watching the giants stumble, someone smaller has been quietly taking notes the whole time. And that's Morocco. 2022, Morocco's national team does something no African team, no Arab team had ever done. Semi-finals of the World Cup. The whole continent went up. Lagos, Nairobi, Dakar. Everyone celebrating like it was their own team. That's not random, that's identity. But there is another part that most people miss. Morocco turns that soft power into a plan. Morocco is now ranked among the top soft power countries in Africa. They hosted AFCON 2025. They are co-hosting the World Cup in 2030. New stadiums, new transport links, a diplomatic push across the whole continent. Now think about what that actually means. In addition to hosting football, Morocco is building stadiums. Morocco is building roads to get to those stadiums, airports to connect those roads, hotels near those airports, and every single one of those things are useful long after the final whistle. You see, the football is the excuse, the roads and the relationship are the price. So here is the real question. If hosting a tournament can justify building an entire transport network, pulling in investors and putting your country in the front of 1 billion people, what's stopping another African country from doing exactly what Morocco is doing? Genuinely comment your answer below. I want to read those. Now, before we get excited about Morocco's plan, let's follow the money for a second, like a detective would. Because building stadiums is one thing, keeping the money in the country is a whole different game. When the big sponsorship deals and the broadcast money come in, FIFA and the bigger sponsors usually take the biggest slice. And on the ground, some of South Africa's 2010 stadiums became expensive to maintain years later with not so much use. You see, nobody puts that on the campaign poster. So here is the honest truth. The World Cup can be huge for a country's image and economy. The South African numbers are real. The 2026 projections are real. But can be and will be are two different words. And the gap between them is one thing. Planning. Who gets the contracts? Who is still maintaining the stadium in 5 years? Who trained the local workers versus who just flew in? This is the conversation I think we need to have, not should we host these things? Another thing, how do we make sure the money doesn't pass through our countries on its way to somewhere else? And that's not me being dramatic. I actually want to know what you think. So back to the question from the start. Is the World Cup a celebration or a tool? Now, here is my honest answer. It's a loaded weapon. Whether it goes off and in which direction depends entirely on who is holding it and how ready they are when the cameras turn on. Africa has been on the receiving end of that weapon. We provide the talent, other countries build the leaks, the image, the leverage around it. But Morocco just showed it doesn't always have to stay that way. So here is my challenge to you. Forget to like and subscribe. Next time you hear your country is bidding for AFCON or a stadium going up somewhere on this continent, don't just ask, will we win the matches? Ask, what story are we telling the world while we are at it? And who is actually writing it for us? Because by the time the final whistle blows, that question might matter more than the score. I'll see you in the next one. My name is Hassan Luis. You're watching Africa Today, and this is the Strategic Lens.